There are books that change the way people think. There are books that change history. And then there are books that many believe should never be opened at all. Among scholars of occult history, one title appears again and again in whispers and warnings. A manuscript said to contain knowledge so powerful that entire generations were told to stay away from it. That book is known as Shams al-Ma'arif. For centuries, its reputation has traveled far beyond the libraries where copies once rested. Some call it the most infamous grimoire ever written in the Islamic world. Others describe it as a spiritual text, misunderstood by those who sought power instead of wisdom. But regardless of how it is interpreted, the name itself carries an unusual weight. Even today, in certain communities, people hesitate before mentioning it aloud. The title translates roughly to the Sun of Knowledge. Yet the knowledge it claims to illuminate is not ordinary scholarship. The book explores mystical numerology, sacred letters, hidden mathematics, and invocations tied to divine names believed to hold immense spiritual force. According to tradition, these combinations of words and symbols can alter unseen realities, opening pathways between the human world and realms that exist just beyond perception. Because of this, Shams al-Ma'arif quickly gained a reputation that blurred the line between sacred study and dangerous curiosity. Stories spread of readers who attempted to practice the rituals contained in its pages, only to claim that something answered. Some reported hearing voices in empty rooms. Others insisted that strange coincidences began unfolding around them, as though invisible forces had taken notice of their actions. These accounts are impossible to verify, yet they persist with remarkable consistency. What makes the stories more intriguing is that the book was not written by a rogue sorcerer hiding in the shadows. It was composed by a respected Sufi scholar named Ahmad al-Buni in the 13th century, a man deeply immersed in spiritual philosophy and religious study. His writings explored the mystical properties of Arabic letters and numbers, seeking patterns that he believed reflected the hidden architecture of creation itself. In that sense, the text may never have been intended as a manual for summoning or controlling supernatural beings. To al-Buni, the symbols and formulas within the book represented a form of sacred mathematics, a language through which the universe itself could be understood. But over time, readers began interpreting those symbols differently. What began as mystical scholarship slowly transformed into something more dangerous, a guide for manipulating unseen forces. As the book's reputation grew, so did the warnings. Religious authorities cautioned people against studying it without deep spiritual discipline. Scholars argued that the knowledge inside could easily be misunderstood or misused. In some regions, possession of the book itself became controversial, with certain governments eventually banning it entirely. Yet bans rarely erase curiosity. If anything, they intensify it. Copies continued to circulate quietly through private collections, underground markets, and hidden digital archives. Even today, fragments of Shams al-Ma'arif appear online, attracting readers drawn by the promise of forbidden knowledge. But the question surrounding the book has never really changed. Is Shams al-Ma'arif simply an ancient mystical manuscript, misunderstood by modern readers? Or is it something else entirely, a doorway into traditions that were never meant to leave the hands of trained scholars? Welcome to Tales from the Forbidden Library. Tonight, we open the pages of one of the most feared grimoires ever written, and explore why so many people believe some knowledge was never meant to be found. Long before Shams al-Ma'arif gained its reputation as one of the most feared grimoires in the world, it began as the work of a scholar searching for patterns hidden within the fabric of creation. The man behind it was Ahmad ibn Ali al-Buni, a 13th century Sufi mystic whose writings explored the relationship between language, mathematics, and the divine. Unlike the shadowy figures often associated with occult manuscripts, al-Buni was not a secretive sorcerer working in isolation. He was a respected theologian and spiritual thinker whose work grew out of deep religious study. Born in North Africa during a time when Islamic scholarship flourished across cities like Cairo, Fez, and Baghdad, al-Buni lived in a world where philosophy, theology, and science often overlapped. Scholars debated the nature of existence, the structure of the cosmos, and the hidden meanings embedded within sacred texts. Within this intellectual atmosphere, the Arabic alphabet itself held profound significance. Many mystics believed the letters of the Quran were not merely symbols for sound, but vessels containing layers of spiritual meaning. Al-Buni became fascinated with this idea. To him, language was not simply a tool for communication. It was a reflection of divine order. Each letter carried a numerical value, and those numbers could be arranged into patterns revealing relationships between the material world and the unseen. This practice, known as ilm al-huruf, or the science of letters, had already existed within mystical traditions, but al-Buni approached it with an intensity that set his work apart. He began studying the mathematical values of Arabic letters and their combinations within sacred names. These values could be arranged into grids, sequences, and geometric structures that mystics believed mirrored cosmic harmony. The most famous of these arrangements were magic squares, numerical grids, where each row, column, and diagonal produced the same sum. To modernize, these might appear as puzzles or curiosities. But within al-Buni's philosophy, they represented a symbolic map of the universe itself. From these studies emerged the manuscript that would later become known as Shams al-Ma'arif. Rather than a single narrative text, the book was a collection of diagrams, formulas, prayers, and symbolic arrangements. Some pages explored the mystical properties of divine names, describing how their letters interacted within mathematical frameworks. Others presented sigils and seals derived from combinations of sacred words. These symbols were believed to align spiritual forces when used correctly. To al-Buni, these practices were not intended to control supernatural beings or bend reality to human will. His writings suggest something closer to spiritual alignment, a belief that understanding divine patterns could bring a person into harmony with the hidden order of existence. In that sense, the book may have been closer to a mystical philosophy than a manual of rituals. Yet once knowledge enters the world, it rarely remains interpreted in only one way. Students copied fragments of al-Buni's work. Scholars debated his ideas. Over time, versions of the manuscript began circulating with additions, commentaries, and reinterpretations from later writers. Some focused on the spiritual symbolism behind the letters. Others became fascinated by the diagrams and seals, believing they could be used to interact with the unseen world. By the time centuries had passed, the text had transformed. What began as a complex exploration of sacred numerology had acquired a new reputation, that of a grimoire, a book of occult power. Stories spread that the sigils could summon jinn, influence hidden forces, or unlock knowledge forbidden to ordinary readers. Whether these claims reflected the original intent of al-Buni is still debated among historians today. But the transformation of the manuscript marked a turning point. The book was no longer just a mystical treatise studied by scholars. It had become something far more controversial. A work whispered about in secret circles. A book that promised knowledge most people were warned never to seek. And the deeper readers went into its pages, the stranger the contents seemed to become. Sigils, number squares, and invocations believed to open communication with unseen realms. When readers first encounter Shams al-Ma'arif, the text does not appear like a typical religious or philosophical manuscript. Instead of long, flowing explanations, many pages are filled with symbols, diagrams, and geometric arrangements of numbers and letters. To an untrained eye, The pages resemble puzzles or coded messages. But within the mystical tradition surrounding the book, these designs are believed to represent something far more complex. A system meant to align the visible world with unseen forces. One of the most recognizable features of the manuscript is the use of magic squares, grids of numbers arranged so that every row, column, and diagonal adds up to the same total. At first glance, they appear mathematical, almost playful in their symmetry. Yet within the worldview that shaped the book, these squares were thought to carry spiritual resonance. Each number corresponded to a letter, each letter to a sacred name, and each sacred name to a deeper structure within the cosmos. Practitioners believed that by arranging these values in precise patterns, the balance of divine attributes could be symbolically recreated on a small scale. In theory, the square did not produce power by itself. Instead, it acted as a reflection of a greater harmony already present in creation. When combined with specific prayers or invocations, these grids were thought to align the reader with hidden aspects of reality, a concept that blurred the boundary between spiritual meditation and ritual practice. Alongside the number squares are sigils and seals, intricate designs composed of interwoven Arabic letters. Some form circular patterns resembling celestial charts, while others stretch into angular shapes that appear almost architectural. Each of these symbols is associated with particular names or spiritual concepts, often written repeatedly in complex configurations. Readers who studied them believed these forms functioned as visual expressions of divine language, a kind of sacred geometry embedded within the alphabet itself. But the most controversial sections of Shams al-Ma'arif are the passages that describe invocations, combinations of divine names, repeated phrases, and symbolic preparations that must be performed in precise sequences. These sections outline detailed conditions for the reader, specific times of day, particular states of ritual purity, and strict mental focus. The instructions suggest that the symbols and words must be approached with extreme discipline, emphasizing that the knowledge within the book was never meant to be used casually. Over time, these instructions gave rise to the belief that the manuscript could be used to communicate with unseen beings, particularly the jinn described in Islamic cosmology. In traditional theology, jinn are neither angels nor demons, but a separate order of creation, possessing intelligence and free will. The possibility that the patterns and invocations in Shams al-Ma'arif might open a channel of interaction with such beings became one of the reasons the book earned its dangerous reputation. Stories circulated among readers claiming that those who attempted the rituals sometimes experienced unusual phenomena. Some described hearing sounds in otherwise silent rooms. Others reported dreams that felt more vivid than waking life. Skeptics argue that such experiences can easily arise from intense focus, sleep deprivation, or the psychological effects of engaging with material believed to be powerful or forbidden. Yet believers insist that the patterns within the manuscript are not symbolic alone. They are keys to forces most people never encounter. What makes the forbidden pages particularly unsettling is the emphasis on precision. The text repeatedly stresses that every letter must be written correctly, every number placed exactly where it belongs, and every phrase recited without error. In mystical traditions, even a slight alteration in a symbol could change the meaning entirely. To readers fascinated by the book's reputation, this insistence on exactness suggests that the system inside Shams al-Ma'arif was designed with extraordinary care. Whether that system represents spiritual philosophy, coded symbolism, or something more mysterious is still debated today. But there is little disagreement about one thing. These pages transformed the manuscript's legacy. What began as a study of sacred letters gradually became known as something else. A book filled with diagrams and formulas that many believed could open doors best left closed. And once those doors were imagined to exist, curiosity ensured that people would keep searching for the keys. As the reputation of Shams al-Ma'arif spread across centuries, the reactions from scholars and religious authorities became increasingly divided. Some viewed the book as an intellectual curiosity, a product of medieval mystical philosophy that explored the symbolic relationships between numbers, letters, and divine names. But others believed the manuscript crossed a line that should never have been approached, let alone studied by the general public. The warnings did not come from fear of superstition alone. Many scholars argued that the danger lay in misunderstanding the text. Within classical Islamic thought, spiritual knowledge was often transmitted carefully from teacher to student, ensuring that complex ideas were interpreted with discipline and humility. Shams al-Ma'arif, however, circulated as a written work that could easily fall into the hands of readers who lacked the philosophical or spiritual framework necessary to understand it. Without that context, the symbols inside the book could be mistaken for tools rather than teachings. A system meant to reflect divine order could instead be treated as a mechanism for controlling unseen forces. For scholars concerned with preserving theological boundaries, this shift was deeply troubling. They worried that readers might attempt to manipulate sacred names or spiritual concepts in ways that contradicted the very traditions those ideas came from. Historical commentaries reveal that many religious authorities feared the book would encourage people to seek shortcuts to power. Instead of focusing on prayer, ethical discipline, and spiritual growth, readers might be tempted by the possibility of influencing events through symbols and formulas. From their perspective, such curiosity risked leading people away from faith and toward practices they considered spiritually dangerous. These concerns intensified as stories about the book's effects began circulating among the public. Some readers claimed they experienced strange dreams after studying its pages. Others insisted that unusual coincidences followed attempts to replicate its diagrams or invocations. Whether these stories reflected psychological suggestion or genuine spiritual experiences is impossible to determine, but the reports were enough to fuel anxiety about the manuscript. Over time, the warnings became stronger. Teachers advised students to avoid the text entirely unless they possessed deep spiritual training. Certain scholars classified it among writings that should not be studied without guidance, arguing that even sincere readers could misinterpret its purpose. In some regions, possession of the manuscript itself became controversial, with authorities discouraging its distribution to prevent misuse. Yet the more the book was condemned, the more fascination it generated. The idea that knowledge could be forbidden only heightened curiosity among those drawn to the mysterious. Collectors searched for rare copies. Students whispered about hidden chapters. In certain circles, the book's reputation transformed it from an obscure mystical work into a legendary object of occult study. What makes the warnings particularly striking is that they rarely accuse the manuscript of being fraudulent. Instead, the concern lies in the opposite possibility, that the ideas inside it might hold meaning powerful enough to be misunderstood. Scholars who opposed the book often described it not as false knowledge, but as knowledge that required extreme caution. This distinction is subtle, but important. A false text can simply be ignored. A text that contains genuine insight, however, can be dangerous if approached without preparation. And so the reputation of Shams al-Ma'arif grew into something paradoxical. A book written by a respected mystic, a work studied quietly by scholars, and a manuscript many people believe should remain closed, not because it lacks truth, but because it might contain more of it than most readers are ready to confront. As the reputation of Shams al-Ma'arif spread, readers became increasingly fascinated by one particular aspect of the book, its references to unseen beings known in Islamic tradition as jinn. Unlike angels, who are believed to be created from light, or humans formed from clay, jinn are described in scripture as beings created from smokeless fire. They occupy a realm that overlaps with the human world, yet remains largely invisible to ordinary perception. Within classical theology, jinn are not inherently evil or benevolent. Like humans, they possess free will. Some follow divine guidance, while others act according to their own desires. Because of this, many scholars historically treated discussions about jinn with caution. The possibility of interacting with such beings was not denied outright, but it was generally considered something that should not be pursued. In Shams al-Ma'arif, however, the concept appears within a much broader mystical framework. The manuscript suggests that language itself, particularly sacred language, contains structures capable of resonating with unseen aspects of existence. The letters of divine names, when arranged with precision and combined with certain numerical relationships, were believed to reflect patterns embedded in the universe. From this perspective, the seals and sigils found throughout the book were not simply decorative diagrams. They were symbolic representations of these patterns. Each seal combined letters, numbers, and geometric arrangements into a unified form that mirrored a specific spiritual concept. To those who studied the system, these designs functioned like keys, not opening physical doors, but aligning the practitioner with particular forces within the unseen world. Among the most controversial elements of the text are passages suggesting that certain combinations of letters and invocations could attract the attention of jinn. These instructions describe precise preparations, periods of fasting, ritual purification, and the careful recitation of divine names under specific conditions. The emphasis is always placed on discipline and spiritual focus, suggesting that the process was meant to be approached with extreme seriousness. Supporters of al-Buni's philosophy argue that these sections have been misunderstood over time. They claim the book does not instruct readers to control jinn, but rather to understand the hidden structures through which the universe operates. In this interpretation, the seals are not tools of domination, but symbols meant to reveal deeper connections between creation and the divine. Yet many readers throughout history have interpreted the text differently. The intricate seals, combined with the emphasis on precision and ritual preparation, led some to believe the book offered a method for contacting beings beyond the human realm. Whether these beliefs reflect genuine mystical practice or centuries of exaggeration is still debated among historians. What is clear is that the presence of these seals and invocations dramatically shaped the book's legacy. For those drawn to the mysteries of the unseen, the manuscript became a source of fascination. For scholars concerned with spiritual safety, it became a reason for caution. And for storytellers across generations, it became the foundation for countless legends about rituals that could attract forces better left undisturbed. The deeper readers ventured into these pages, the more they encountered a complex system where language, mathematics, and spirituality intersected. Letters became numbers, numbers became patterns, patterns became symbols thought to resonate with realities beyond human sight. Whether those realities truly respond to such symbols remains an open question. But the seals of Shams al-Ma'arif continue to carry an enduring reputation as diagrams that some believe represent the hidden architecture of the unseen world itself. By the time Shams al-Ma'arif had circulated for several centuries, the manuscript had transformed from an obscure mystical treatise into something far more controversial. Its reputation had traveled across regions, through scholars, traders, collectors, and students who passed copies of the text quietly from one hand to another. With every generation, the stories surrounding the book grew more dramatic. Some described it as a profound work of spiritual philosophy. Others began to treat it as a manual for dangerous practices. It was this second interpretation that alarmed many religious authorities. Within Islamic scholarship, knowledge is traditionally approached with a strong emphasis on discipline, ethical intention, and proper guidance. Spiritual teachings were often transmitted through chains of teachers who ensured that students understood both the meaning and the responsibility behind what they were studying. A text like Shams al-Ma'arif, filled with symbolic diagrams and references to unseen forces, posed a unique challenge. Without proper context, readers might misinterpret the material entirely. Scholars worried that individuals seeking quick answers or supernatural power would attempt to replicate the book's rituals without understanding their deeper meaning. Instead of seeing the seals and numerical patterns as reflections of divine order, some readers began treating them as tools for manipulating reality. This shift transformed the manuscript's public image. What may have begun as an exploration of mystical symbolism slowly gained the reputation of a dangerous grimoire. As these interpretations spread, warnings about the book became increasingly explicit. Teachers cautioned their students against studying it without extensive preparation. Some argued that the diagrams and invocations could easily be misused, especially by those drawn to the idea of communicating with unseen beings. In this view, the danger of the text was not necessarily the knowledge it contained, but the motivations of those who might attempt to use it. Over time, certain governments and religious institutions began restricting the book's circulation. In several regions, authorities discouraged the printing or distribution of the manuscript, fearing that its contents might lead people toward practices considered spiritually harmful. These restrictions were not always formal bans written into law, but they reflected a widespread effort to limit access to the text. Ironically, these attempts to suppress the book only intensified its mystique. When something is declared forbidden, curiosity rarely disappears. Instead, it grows stronger. Copies of Shams al-Ma'arif continued to circulate in private collections, hidden libraries, and underground markets. Scholars studied fragments quietly. Collectors searched for rare editions. Even as the warnings grew louder, the book's reputation as one of the most mysterious manuscripts in the Islamic world continued to expand. What makes the controversy surrounding the text particularly fascinating is that it was never dismissed outright as meaningless superstition. Many of the scholars who warned against it acknowledged that al-Buni himself had been a respected mystic and theologian. Their concern was not that the manuscript was false, but that its ideas could be misunderstood or exploited by those seeking power rather than insight. This tension between curiosity and caution ultimately shaped the book's legacy. For some readers, Shams al-Ma'arif represents a profound exploration of sacred symbolism and spiritual philosophy. For others, it stands as a reminder that certain forms of knowledge demand humility and restraint. And that is precisely why the manuscript continues to provoke such strong reactions even today. Because a book that contains nothing dangerous would never need to be banned. But a book that might reveal something real, something powerful, something easily misunderstood. That is the kind of knowledge people have always tried to hide. Across centuries, the story of Shams al-Ma'arif has never settled into a single explanation. Some view it as a misunderstood work of mystical philosophy, a book attempting to explore the hidden harmony between language, mathematics, and the divine. Others believe it represents something far more dangerous. A manuscript that strayed too close to forces humanity was never meant to interact with directly. Between those two interpretations lies the mystery that continues to surround it. What makes the book so unsettling is not simply the symbols or the stories attached to it. It is the possibility that knowledge itself can carry consequences. Throughout history, certain teachings have been passed down carefully, entrusted only to those who demonstrated discipline and understanding. When those teachings escape that careful chain of guidance, they can easily transform from wisdom into temptation. In the case of Shams al-Ma'arif, that transformation appears to have happened gradually. A scholar exploring sacred patterns became, over time, the author of a legendary grimoire, diagrams meant to reflect spiritual principles became rumored tools for summoning unseen beings. And a manuscript once studied by mystics became an object of fascination for anyone drawn to forbidden knowledge. Yet despite centuries of warnings, the book has never truly disappeared. Copies continue to surface in private collections and digital archives. Scholars still debate the original meaning of its symbols. Students of mystical traditions still study fragments of its teachings, searching for insight into the ideas that shaped medieval spiritual thought. Perhaps this persistence reveals something about human nature. The more a piece of knowledge is hidden, the more powerful its allure becomes. Curiosity pushes people to seek answers, even when they are told the answers may not be safe to find. The forbidden carries a gravity that ordinary information rarely possesses. But the story of Shams al-Ma'arif also raises a quieter question, one that goes beyond the book itself. Throughout history, countless texts have been lost, sealed away, or deliberately suppressed. Some were hidden because they were dangerous, others because they were misunderstood, and some because those in power feared what people might do if they learned what the pages contained. This leaves us with an uncertainty that has followed the book for centuries. Is Shams al-Ma'arif truly a dangerous grimoire, capable of opening doors into unseen realms? Or is it simply a misunderstood artifact of a time when scholars searched for divine patterns within numbers and letters? The truth may lie somewhere in between. Because sometimes a book becomes feared, not because it contains dark power, but because it reminds us how little we understand about the forces shaping the world around us. And if even a fraction of the legends surrounding Shams al-Ma'arif hold meaning, then one possibility remains quietly unsettling. Some knowledge spreads through history naturally. Other knowledge survives despite every attempt to bury it. And when a book refuses to disappear after centuries of warnings, bans, and whispered caution, it makes you wonder whether the knowledge inside was ever meant to stay hidden at all. Welcome to Tales from the Forbidden Library.